Greetings, my dear fellow colleagues. We as teachers have a very difficult challenge. We have so many hurdles, but the mission that we all share around the world is like a thread that connects teachers from all over the world. Today, I have a very interesting, but to some it may seem not important, but we are ferrying the students to the unknown boundaries of the English language. Why unknown? Because language evolves, you all know that. And we are like captains who take our ship, and it's symbolic, if a student is a ship and English language is the ocean, we take them across. And captains usually have stars and many other navigational instruments. Today, I would like to open up my perception of a very interesting tool. So, perception of correctness and what it relates to. Linguistic relativity, we will look into that as well. TED Talks and shifting barriers. That is a fantastic tool. And TED Talks is a tool that should help your students. It's a great, great initiative which started quite a few years ago in the United States, TED Talks. And then they developed various companies, affiliations, and TED-Ed network allows to unite teachers around the world and share. So 3 reasons to be kind to educators. Have you ever considered yourself as an educator with people all around you praising you and your services? Not often that happens. So why don't you give a round of applause to yourself, please? Give a round of applause, colleagues. Don't be shy. You deserve it. So being a teacher is a tough, no matter where you are. Educators don't just teach, they manage a flurry of feelings because we help our students to prosper, to use their imagination. And of course, teachers like kids need help.
Where did my sister come from? Is the sun following me?
Teachers have to deal with every type of emergency.
No one is going to know that you had an accident. Okay, just wrap this around here.
Teachers have to know everything about everything.
Give it a second. So in a way, this is a very realistic portrayal of a volcano, because everybody thought it was going to explode, but it didn't explode.
I'm the math giraffe that I'm here to say.
We're going to use our mind cameras now and imagine people running down the hill, because they were warned, but they're like, nah, this thing isn't going to blow, you guys. We're going to stick around town and see what goes down.
Long division, not wrong division.
Teachers have to be like a courtroom judge. They must be honest and fair.
I'm going to read you the answer you put on your math test. I forgot to study last night. Here's a drawing of a donkey wearing roller skates. That's a good drawing, but you got to study.
Teachers have to be really, really nice all the time. It's harder than it looks.
Hi, Miss Bertra. I made you some cookies.
Wow, for me? Thank you.
They made of chocolate chips
That's my favorite.
and hot dogs.
Even when they're not at work, they're still working.
Lindsay, what are you still doing here?
I'm just waiting for my mom.
Oh, we'll wait with you.
Teachers have to be good role models. They must challenge and inspire their students.
Oh, Stuart, your shoes untied. Let me help.
I don't need any help. Excelsi taught me, Miss Rosa.
In conclusion, teachers have the hardest job in the world. What amazing things did your teacher do for you?
Teresa, yes.
Mrs. Jeffrey!
So this was just a brief glimpse around the world, and you recognize yourselves in the positions of those teachers. Let's, for example, assume that we are in a classroom, and in the beginning of the lesson, you would like to start with a tongue twister. A tongue twister that will help your students to immerse into the language. Ingenious iguanas improvising an intricate impromptu on impossibly impractical instruments. But wait, you may say, how the hell they would know, the students, what those impractical, intricate mean? So, perceptual problems of ESL learners, hidden problems. How can we help? Please tell me. Perceive, please choose. Perceive, choose the correct synonym. There are 4. Please raise your hand who thinks A would be the answer. B, C, oh, I need to read. Okay, scorn is A, impose is B, alter is C, and discern is D. Who thinks C is the answer? Who thinks D is the answer? Wow. What a populous decision. D is correct. The perceptual no. Next. So to perceive, we use listening skills and comprehensive skills. Because you need to hear the sound, and then you have to be conscious what we are talking about. And then when we listen, we hear with an intention. So now, why don't we do the tongue twister with 2 pictures? And that will allow your students to understand better what we are talking about. So, I would like to ask this group, please, read with me the first 4 words. Together. Ingenious iguanas, improvising an intricate, thank you. And now this group, the final verse. Impromptu on impossibly impractical instruments. And then you see, you show the violin and you say it's broken, please find a relative word. And they will understand that it is impractical. And then the iguana, a very common animal in Siberia, everybody knows that. But that picture definitely will create an image. So we are allowing the students to comprehend, visualize, and understand what we're talking about. Next, please. I would like you to meet Roxana Pomeranz, a great speaker, a great person and personality. Please watch it closely, because most of the headings that were in my topic comes from that video, and we will continue after that.
How many of you can speak more than 1 language? Now keep your hands up if you can speak more than 2. And how about 3? Very impressive. But did you know that you actually could have easily learned 25 languages? It's true. This is a natural human phenomenon that any normal child born anywhere in the world is capable of learning any language that he or she is exposed to. And did you know that the languages that your child is exposed to before the age of 7, which is also known as the critical age period, are the only languages that he or she will be exposed to later in life? Leonard Bloomfield said, "The acquisition of a language is doubtless the greatest intellectual feat that any one of us is ever required to perform." So I asked myself and some others in the overseas student program here, why do we learn languages? At first, we all learn language because we have to. As humans, we're designed to learn language just like we're designed to walk. There's simply no preventing it. But then there's some of us who actually do it for fun. We go through the struggle, we put in the effort, feeling wrong all the time. But we love it because the rewards are so great. It's awesome to speak another language, to carry it with you everywhere you go, to travel and communicate with people in their native language makes conversation so much more personal, and you actually get to enjoy more out of life because it gives you the opportunity to understand more music and movies and games from around the world. So I want to ask you another question, and I want you all to think about this. If we started taking advantage of the amazing ability that children have to learn languages and the plethora of free language learning tools we have on our devices today, could we, by reducing language barriers, reduce other barriers in society? Which begs me to ask another question. What exactly are language barriers, and what do they do? I know what some of you are thinking. You're at the dinner table, and you're between your mother, who's Russian, and your beautiful American girlfriend. And you're having a moment of realization that you've just hired yourself out as a translator. So you have to spend the whole evening hearing everything 3 times. And even though you thought that you could speak English and Russian perfectly, you're starting to feel confused and frustrated, and you're desperate for a couple minutes of alone time just to think in whatever language you choose to think in. But there's a lot more to language barriers that I want you to know. Have you ever heard of linguistic relativity? Linguistic relativity is the field which asks questions on the relations between language, perception, and thought. The core theory is called the deterministic theory. It's scientifically proven, and it states that the language you speak shapes the way you think and influences your behavior. The fathers of linguistic relativity, Benjamin Worf and Edward Sapir, also state that if a word doesn't exist in your language, you won't know the concept. Now, I think that those guys can be a little extreme in their theories. I think, rather, that if a word doesn't exist in your language, you're a lot less likely to identify with that concept. One of my friends here in Israel, a native German speaker, told me a story once of how the English language changed the way that she thought about love. She told me she still remembers the first time she heard the term falling in love, and that she was shocked at the use of the language because she had never thought of being in love as something that happened suddenly and dramatically. And she pictured someone actually falling. And she could feel that, and then she knew that someday...
I'm sorry, due to the time requirement, I have to shorten this video and continue with my presentation. But to fall in love, in a way, it is when you are moonstruck or thunderbolt and you fall. Literally, not figuratively. Anyone who wishes to speak a second language must learn the grammar, vocabulary of the language, and master the sounds. And of course, sounds and concepts. Additionally, learners also should be given sufficient exposure and opportunity to use the language outside of their classroom. Our beautiful Olga and her wonderful Magellan staff provides this opportunity for all of you, and myself as well, to be together once in a while and share. And that's very important. And Olga, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, linguistic relativity. Once I took a group of Siberian teenagers to United States, and they could never understand when they are in the public spaces, they always stood next to Americans, and Americans were irritated. And I told them, my students, I said, privacy is very important in America. And I looked in their eyes and I saw there was nothing. So privacy, they know private, they know to privatize, but they don't understand privacy. Does it exist in the Russian language? In one word? No. 2, sometimes 3. That's what she meant, Roxanne meant, that relativity is knowing the language, but percepting the perception, and you carry it to your own language, and it's not there. a very interesting observation, Roger Brown, that there are two kinds of relativities, weak and strong. Please think about that. And of course, Wilhelm von Humboldt in the 19th century mentioned a very interesting, at the same time, a very simple thought. A language is an expression of the spirit of a nation. Today, there are 92 countries in the world where English is either native or unofficial. And there are people who speak English in India and Pakistan and Jamaica, and it's all English. But in reality, it's an English variant. I mean, Jamaican variant of English, American variant of English. And we as teachers have to always remember that. So TED has created a very interesting platform. And TED Ed around the world is picking up really a lot of popularity. And the goals are very simple, and at the same time, they are very similar to our goals as teachers. So we need to spark and celebrate the ideas that students have. We provide an international platform. They provide an international platform. We provide also in your classrooms an international platform because English is so different. Then they help curious students around the globe bringing TED to their schools. And that is helpful to us because you can take any TED speaker. It can be an Indian person, it can be an Australian, it can be anyone. In 6 months, the club will meet twice each month, and in May, they will deliver a real TED Ed or TED Talk style. So, if you have questions, if you have students who might be interested, details are here. I will be very happy to assist. I will be very happy to come and make a presentation in your school for senior school students. I understand that you may have questions, but we have very little time. So, any questions? No questions. Okay.